There's a new book out this week. It is You'll Be Taking Everyone Down With Us. And of course, we're excited to talk about it, as we are always excited to talk about indie books. But luckily, an awesome creator did actually reach out to us. So here to talk about his book, You'll Take Everyone Down With Us, is Matthew Rosenberg.
Matthew, hello, Matthew.
Hey guys, I'm sure everyone was hoping it was going to be Jim Lee, but it's me.
Oh man,
not us, not us at all.
That would have been a funny pivot. No, cool. But yeah, Matt. First of all, guys, he actually mailed out to several comic book stores and offered to do promotional events, talk about the book. And I actually texted him when he was at Comics Pro like a jerk. And then he and I actually got on an image call later and we got to talk a little bit. Matt, thank you for taking the time to talk about your book.
Absolutely. We have both read it and absolutely adore it.
Yes.
Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate that.
It was so good. I remember reading back in the day, I read Four Kids Walk Into a Bank whenever it first started coming out. And then We Can Never Go Home, and just absolutely loved those books.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate that. Well,
my favorite, I guess.
Oh yeah.
My introduction was actually the first was the X-Men run you did right before House of X and Power of X before Hickman. Yeah. And if you guys haven't read that, it's a fantastic run. It was Uncanny X-Men. It was right after X-Men Blue, Red, and Gold, and everything, and they put it all together into Uncanny X-Men. And I'll be honest, this is before Jonathan Hickman was like killing and resurrecting mutants every other week. Matthew killed like half of them when there wasn't exactly a plan to resurrect them immediately. I mean, I'm sure there's some editorial plan, but you know,
I killed a lot of them. Yeah,
you killed a lot of them. Yes.
Oh,
but my favorite scene you did was you had Wolverine and Cyclops kind of reuniting for like the first time in years. And it was just epic. It was perfect. They look at each other, kind of size each other up, and they immediately turn around like, all right, let's go to work. You know, let's forget about the last 10 years of us being at each other's throats and dead. It was just perfect.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that was a fun and weird book to do, but I'm a huge X-Men fan, so it was a blast for me.
Heck yeah. Before we dive into we're taking everyone down with us. We'd be remiss if we do not bring up, you know, obviously everyone, we're watching Daredevil right now. Sure. And the Punisher arc that's kind of been woven into Daredevil Born Again, the cops using the Punisher symbol. You actually wrote about that before on your Punisher run, right?
Yeah. I did like just under 30 issues of the Punisher a few years ago. And the first part was where he has the War Machine armor, but then he loses it and he's back on the streets of New York, and there's a sort of he has a run-in with cops who kind of worship him and idolize him, and it doesn't go great for them, and it landed me on a lot of news channels, and I had my DMs open, so I got a bunch of interesting
boy.
But it was I don't know, I have any idea what they're doing on the show,
of course,
more than anyone else, but I'm curious to see where it goes.
Absolutely.
I remember reading several news articles actually about that back in the day. One of our unfortunately, one who's no longer with us, she one of the original owners of the store, I remember whenever we were doing pull boxes for your Punisher run, I guess the A cover of issue 1 when they did after he lost the armor, the way they drew him, she was like, he looks like Liam Neeson. It was funny. That's all I can remember about that. But that was a lot of fun. Anyways, let's talk about we're taking everyone down with us. So you kind of gave me the elevator pitch on our phone call before. Can you kind of quick for our viewers tell us what is this book about?
Sure, yeah. It's set in a kind of 1960s, 70s James Bond-ish world of, you know, sexy super spies and power-hungry villains, but our story is actually about Annalise, who is the 13-year-old daughter of the world's greatest mad scientist, and she's been raised on an island in seclusion by her mad scientist dad and his small battalion of personal helper robots, and they've been hiding for years, and she doesn't know that, and then their whereabouts are discovered, and her life is sort of sent into turmoil, and she's finding out things about her family and herself and her place in the world. And so it's, you know, sort of a love letter to, you know, the spy genre and James Bond kind of stuff, but also, you know, there's a little bit of the, you know, stuff like like Johnny Quest and things like that, and then there's like a foul-mouthed little girl and a robot on the run together, and it's sort of a buddy adventure, family drama, sci-fi, spy adventure action book. It's kind of everything. It's I always feel weird because I can't just be like, it's just like Titanic with the Muppets or whatever. Like I don't have a simple way to do that. Yeah, Titanic with the Muppets is great. Don't steal that, anybody, please.
No, not at all, never. But that is one thing I noticed when I was reading it. Like, it isn't just one genre. It isn't just one like source material. It's not like, oh, hey, this is what if James Bond was clinically insane? No, it's like you have that Johnny Quest feel and that kind of golden age sci-fi gold key comics feel at first. Sure. Where did the idea of this book come from?
Actually, the book is funny because I lost my headphone. The book is funny because it is Stefano Landini, my collaborator, partner on the book. We've done a bunch of stuff together, including some Punisher. He was one of the artists on the Punisher with me, and we really liked working together. And we were going to do another book at Marvel at the start, right before the pandemic. And when the pandemic hit, they paused everything, and shops were closed, and Diamond was closed, and no one knew what to do. And so our book was put on hold. And then when it was taken off of hold, we weren't the people on the book anymore. And Stefano emailed me and was like, well, that sucks. We should do something of our own. And I said, yeah. And he said, I have something I want to do. And I said, you're making my job so easy, man. And he sent me a drawing of a robot. And I was like, that's a cool robot. And he was like, that's the book. And I was like, well, that's just a robot, dude. And, I took a couple of weeks, and I sort of tried to figure out what I wanted to do with this cool robot. And I came back to him with this whole thing. And, and I was talking about sort of family and the idea of violence and how it cascades through people's lives and generational impact and of trauma and things like that. And he was like, yeah, I just want to do a story about a robot. And I was like, well, it'll be that too. And so that's sort of the root of it, is just me and him sort of having these separate ideas of what we want to do and trying to make it work. And I think the book is better because of that, because it's
absolutely
both of us doing these things. And when you say like, well, it's not just this one thing. That's sort of at its start, it wasn't one thing. It was the two of us sort of pulling in different directions. And I think it creates something that I think is kind of unique and fun. And the robot doesn't look like the robot in the drawing you sent me anyway. He redesigned it.
Okay, there we go. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, you kind of answered one of my next questions then, because I was going to ask you, like, how's it because this is, a creator-owned story. Like, how's this different than, writing stuff like for Marvel, or for Marvel, basically? But you kind of just answered it. You guys came together to collaborate on this as opposed to like an editorial thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's ours. It's me and Stefano own it, and we can sort of do what we want, and we're not accountable to anyone. I mean, obviously, Image publishes it, and but Image's whole mandate is, do the best work you can. They just give you the tools to make the best story you can make. So it's really just us making what we want. And it's a very different thing to do a creator-owned book than a licensed book. But I think for people who like the stuff I've done on licensed stuff, who like, DC vs. Vampires or the Joker or the Punisher or X-Men or any of that stuff, like, I think there's stuff you'll like here, but it's sort of more freeing to be able to do an Image book. There's things we're going to do here that they wouldn't let me do to, Batman.
Sure.
Yeah, but you did a lot with Batman. In fact, didn't you put one of the Wonder Twins in a blender?
I did put one of the Wonder Twins.
Is it your idea?
Yeah, that was my idea. It was, that was tricky. We didn't know we were actually doing it because, when you do things, I'm not the most popular. Marvel and DC both have standards and practices departments, which sort of protect the IP. And sure. I've been told by editors at both companies that the standards and practices doesn't love me. There's a few times, Punisher especially was one that they were just like, oh, that's every week there was just notes and notes.
Yeah, that was a series that kicks in the teeth. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah. We gotta restock that book, man. That was a That's a good one.
And Joker is the same thing. But I sort of feel like that's the job on those books is like, you know, a Punisher book, a Joker book, like those aren't supposed to feel like everything else. They're supposed to feel a little more dangerous, a little more screwed up. So yeah, in DC vs. Vampires, they definitely like I had to write an alternate scene because they were like, I don't think you're gonna be able to do that to a Wonder Twin. And then you know, the week before we went to print, they were like, you can do it.
Hell yeah.
That's
I was pretty shocked.
Oh man, I remember because you know, luckily Lunar does like the previews and everything. We were looking past like DC vs. Vampires, like, oh, that sound, I don't know. And then I read the preview, like, oh my gosh, and we of course ordered a lot of it. But so how long do you see this series going? Would you see this like as a mini thing or as an ongoing thing, or?
So you know, the structure of comics and the way they work and the way Image works specifically. You know, it's our book. We pay for it. We fund it ourselves. And so I never want to do the thing, you know, we've all got our Netflix accounts and we know what it's like to sort of fall in love with something. And then they're like, that's it, it's done. So we built this to be a miniseries. We built it to be a 6-issue thing, and
fantastic.
Yeah, we set out to do that, and then at issue 3, like Stefano messaged me what I was thinking, which is like, I really love this book. I love these characters, and so I was like, I don't want to change anything. I don't want to change a page. I don't want to change a page of the outline. And I said, but if people like it and show up, I have ideas of what we could do as a sequel. So it's 6 issues. You can buy that knowing you're going to get the whole thing, and it's a self-contained thing. If people like it and show up and buy it, then we could probably do 2 sequels. We probably know what 2 more 6 issues.
You heard it there, folks. If we want to read more, we gotta make sure we're getting it. So
gotta buy them books.
Yeah.
You know, it's really important to me. I don't want people to be like, oh, they were canceled, so it's cut off. Like the end is the end that we were always going to do.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of I always have anxiety about comics. It's really dangerous to tell a long story because you can get cut off and you can run out of money, and we didn't want to do that. So we're making sure that no matter what we do, it's going to be the best version of it we can do.
Absolutely.
Love it. We've got one viewer question. Somebody wants to know, who's easier on your creative side, Marvel or DC?
Wow, that's a really good question to get me fired from my job. Well, I currently don't work at Marvel, so I'm gonna say DC. You know, it's very different. Like it tends to vary. You know, there's a lot. There's parent companies. You hear from Warner Brothers. You hear from Disney, and then there's editors in chief, and then there's editor. But really, at the end of the day, it comes down a lot to who your editor is. And I've had some amazing editors at both companies. And DC vs. Vampires is kind of the easiest though, because it's an Elseworlds book, and so I make
get away with killing everybody in the most brutal way you want to.
Yeah, exactly. I make up the continuity myself, and so if people are like, I don't think that guy knows that guy, I go, he does now. Like it's
definitely does. Yeah.
We've got a guy that works here, Josh. That's one of his favorite books.
Exactly.
Is DC vs. Vampires. He absolutely loves it.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
It's a great book, and if you haven't read it, you don't know what's going to happen in that book each time. So
good.
It's funny. Getting ready for this interview, I was going back and reading back over, like, okay, what else have we written here? And oh yeah, DC vs. Vampires, love that book. Or remember the Punisher run and everything. And this has been a really fun experience getting to get reacquainted with your works and everything. And guys, seriously, obviously our job on the show is to recommend books, but We're Taking Everyone Down With Us is a fantastic book.
Could not recommend this thing anymore.
It's a great book.
So good.
I love Gold Age stuff like, Johnny Quest or Tintin and everything. So taking that genre and just inverting it like he does in this book, it's fantastic. So that's definitely my favorite book of the week.
Oh, thank you. It's a big week, so that means
it's a big week, yes. So.
It's a pretty stacked week to go up against it, but be sure we're going to be recommending this one to everybody.
Absolutely.
And for people at home who are on the fence, we're probably, I don't want to spoil anything, but Absolute Batman might show up in a later issue. He might just wander into our book.
There we go. See, you just never know.
You never know.
So that Absolute Manhunter in there also.
It's crazy. He put, like, say, he put one of the Wonder Twins in a blender, killed off Batman in a vampire book. He'll do anything.
I'll do it.
You just don't know. Yeah.
I don't mind getting sued by my own
employer.
Right. Why not?
But seriously, thank you so much for joining us on this. And this first time we've ever done this.
Yeah.
We'll definitely have to do that again. And Matt, we can't wait to hopefully at some point have you down at the shop sometime. We'll talk more about that later. But seriously, thank you so much for taking the time to do all this.
No, thank you guys. Thanks for having me, and thanks for supporting the book, and thanks everyone at home for sitting through this. And a lot of good books this week, so go pick up your book.
A lot of good books this week. Yes.
Actually, before we go, something I always like to ask: is there anything out there that you're reading that maybe we wouldn't know about so much that you would like to promote for yourself? Anybody? I mean, just throw us some good stuff out there. I'd love to know what
am I reading?
The artists are reading.
I mean, I really love You'll Do Bad Things. Tyler, who writes the book, is his car is parked outside my house right now, but he's
nice.
He's my partner on Four Kids Walk Into a Bank and What's the First Place from Here, and I think he's a genius, and I love that book. What else am I reading? I don't know. I just read a really good comic about Chernobyl. Called The Fall of Adamgrad. That was really good.
Okay.
We'll add that to our shelf. Yeah, we need to get
that's really good.
Like that.
I don't know. I'm in the middle of reading Barefoot Jen, the manga about Hiroshima, which is really upsetting and horrible and makes me want to die, but it's good. I like Black Cloak. I liked Absolute Martian Manhunter was really good.
Very good.
I like Absolute Wonder Woman.
Yes.
Yeah, Absolute Wonder Woman's great.
Awesome.
Falling in Love on the Path to Hell. I love.
Yes.
Great book.
Really good. There's just so many good books right now. I feel like Image is really pumping on all cylinders. I feel like
sure.
The Seasons was great, and
Seasons. I love Seasons.
Number 3 just came out.
Number 3's out today. I've got my
stack today. I don't have that yet.
Yeah.
Assorted Crisis Events, Dennis's other book besides Martian Manhunter.
That was good.
Yeah, that's a really fun one. I don't know. There's so many good books right now. It's
and he's right. Image is really killing it. And also, too, guys, not to just talk awesome about Image, but like they help out shops a lot. They make stuff like this happen. So we love Image comics here. They've been great to us.
They're the best.
Yes.
I don't know. Other than that, I'm reading like Justice League International, like the 80s.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, that's great, but I don't know. I don't think that's a thing that no one's ever heard of. I'm just like, I'm gonna reread
that.
Like,
what's that?
Again, I just like to know what other people are reading.
Sure, yeah.
I think that's good and always important.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, Matt. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
We greatly appreciate it, and we hope to see you very, very soon. Good luck on everything. Obviously, call out to us if you ever need anything.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank
you, bud. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Well, that was awesome.
Alrighty.
All right, that went so much better than I was expecting.
It really did.
Because again, we're like, it's one of those things that we kind of look at each other. It's more like, how's this going to go? We've never had an interview person on here, and luckily, Brad knew what he was doing, so it works. Yes,
it worked.
But yeah, all right, guys, we're going to go through our ratio variance real quick.